I like to go back to like sort of the fundamentals of physics as well, right? As more people use a blockchain, it's always going to get more expensive. So as much as you want to advertise low fees, at some point, if your chain becomes popular, it is going to get relatively expensive, right? So the question becomes, what comes after that, right? If your chain has higher fees, are you going to still provide the value you provided when your fees were just like a penny or less? And how are you going to handle that?
When you look at Swissborg
est sorti ce matin.
They have an app where you can buy crypto.
They connect to Binance, HitBTC, LMAX, and Kraken and find the
best rates in the markets.
What I like about Swissborg is that they have an amazing app
that can directly buy cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and also cash out as well.
Through Swissborg, all assets will have a fiat gateway. And here is the thing.
Premium features gives you zero fee trading.
That is zero fees.
If you want to buy Bitcoin with fiat, I suggest you buy through Swissborg rather than Coinbase.
And if you're interested in trading the likes of Ethereum or Bitcoin, use Swissborg's application.
Dear crypto community, blockchain buddies across the globe, welcome back to Kryptonites, the no BS blockchain channel built with the community and for the community. And today we have another mind-blowing guest, Peng, Zhong, CEO Tendermint, the first team behind the Cosmos network and blockchain. And we're going to talk about third-gen blockchains, compare Cosmos with other chains so that you can really understand what is the value proposition and why this project has so much adoption. But before we kick off, a shout out to Nate at CryptoSlate for always giving us summarized version of these interviews so you can get access to the written format as well. And without further ado, let's kick off. Peng, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Alex. Thanks for having me here. Really excited about chatting about Cosmos.
Same here, Peng. And I was just in Paris a few weeks ago and I met one of the Ethereum developers who told me that he was actually really excited about the Cosmos network as well. And before jumping into Cosmos and the blockchain and network, I would love to ask you a simple question, Peng. Like, what made you so excited to just dive into this crazy world of crypto? Was it Bitcoin? Was it an actual blockchain infrastructure and network? What really took your heart and soul to join this space?
Well, like for most people in the space, I think Bitcoin popped on my radar like almost a decade ago, right? And that was one of the biggest changes that we've seen, since probably the biggest innovation over the last decade or so. But beyond that, right, crypto is pretty exciting just because it's the ability for programmable value to be exchanged and for people to, for programmers to be able to use that in all sorts of really crazy ways. So the other thing that really made me dive into crypto is my passion for playing video games, actually. So I love RPGs, right? Collecting loot, killing monsters, collecting gold, etc. And so much of this, I feel like, can be brought over to the crypto world. The gamification of tokens, encouraging people to earn online. A lot of it's very reminiscent of role-playing games and MMOs. So those are, I guess, the two reasons.
That's super cool. I think a lot of us growing up from the 80s and 90s also love killing monsters as well. Definitely I do. And I would love to ask you, in order to, one of the big questions that I think a lot of people struggle to wrap their head around is, what makes a quality blockchain? To me personally, obviously, like as an investor, the two most bullish asset classes for me is probably number one, the protocol or the infrastructure that holds everything. And then two, it would probably be the projects with fundamentals, such as centralized exchange tokens or DeFi protocols that actually generate revenue. But I would love to ask you, like, when you're looking at blockchains, like, what is the criteria that really ticks the boxes for you to want to say, okay, I think this is a great project against a project that might not be that great?
Yeah, so I fully agree with you. I think the protocol is super important. A sound protocol, a solid use case. Those are also really important. But I think what really excites me the most is when I see an incredibly passionate community of supporters, right? Like grassroots level support and people just playing around with the tech. Maybe there isn't product market fit yet. Maybe they have no idea what it's capable of, but it shows that there's a lot of potential. And those are the projects that I love looking into.
I couldn't agree more with you. I wholeheartedly see the community as the most important piece of the puzzle. But as you know, a lot of people, they also talk about like gas fees and transactions per second. Are there any other criteria on top of that which you think is really important when evaluating blockchains?
Yeah, so gas fees and scalability, they're very important. But at the same time, as more people use a blockchain, it's always going to get more expensive. So as much as you want to advertise, low fees, at some point, if your chain becomes popular, it is going to get relatively expensive, right? So the question becomes, what comes after that, right? If your chain has higher fees, are you going to still provide the value you provided when your fees were just like a penny or less? And how are you going to handle that, right? And we're seeing Ethereum tackle that right now, trying to go for ETH 2.0 and also all the projects building, layer 2 scalability solutions on ETH. That's really where I'm looking at, the long-term success of a project and then what that means for how much it costs to use it.
So is it correct to say that transaction fees and the speed is a bit overrated when evaluating a blockchain? And what are some indicators where you think, okay, this shows that there's long-term sustainability? Is it perhaps, the actual fees that are generated to provide revenue for the network to continue? And what are some pieces? I'd love to hear. Even the most craziest ideas are completely fine.
Yeah, maybe this is less crazy, but I always go back to the Web 2.0 world. My background is web development and UI design, right? And some of the projects that became incredibly popular, over time, services like Twitter, et cetera, they built MVPs, with things like Ruby on Rails, but then it quickly became unscalable as they started getting hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of users. So the ability for a project and its core developers to scale something that they have, from hundreds of thousands of users to hundreds of millions of users is something that is really important, right? And we're not going to see that. It's going to take time over the next few years, but the projects that successfully scale to hundreds of millions of users are the ones that are really going to succeed.
And that makes a lot of sense, the scalability to have all these users and the adoption on the chain, because it's true, like you said, a lot of chains will talk about how fast they are, how cheap they are, but they don't have many projects in their ecosystem or actually using the chain. So these are some very, very valuable points. And you just mentioned ETH 2.0. As you know, we've been hearing news about Ethereum trying to accelerate its path towards Serenity. Ethereum 2.0 by possibly doing ETH 1.5 this year. How optimistic or pessimistic are you on this transition? It seems like it's a lot of work to actually make this happen, and would love to hear, the tech side of you.
Yeah, as someone who's been working in crypto since late 2015, I would expect everything to take about 3 times longer than you expect it to take, even when taking into account how long you think it might take. I'm optimistic that ETH 1.0, 1.5 will be out there. I don't know if it'll be out there by the end of the year. But I'm still incredibly bullish on Ethereum as a whole. I think there's just so much mind power behind it, and they're going to solve problems, no matter how long it takes. But obviously, there's a lot of competitors coming up that want to take away some of that thunder.
That's very, very cool. And you know what? What I really love, Peng, is that whenever I see messages from Cosmos, on Twitter, or if it's, on a Medium blog, you guys are so elegant and diplomatic. I never see you bashing or criticizing other chains, and always showing support, even when other chains are having difficulties. So really, the mindset, that community mindset that you guys have, is amazing. I want to take my hat off, even though I don't have a hat right now for that specific point. But moving to Cosmos, obviously, no need to bash other chains, but I would love to hear from you, what makes the Cosmos network and blockchain special or unique at this point?
Yeah. So like you mentioned earlier about how our community acts, and treats other blockchains and even other competitors, is that we have just a different mindset, right? We are here to embrace every other blockchain. We're the connector, the bridge to all chains. That's the original purpose of Cosmos, and those are the tools that we're building. We imagine a future where every blockchain will be connected to each other and be able to exchange value, across chains, whether it's single hop or through tens of hops or hundreds of hops. We're here to create the internet of blockchains, or as we like to call it, the interchain, like the Web 3.0 parallel to the internet.
It does sound like, Cosmos is a bit similar to Polkadot in the sense that, as you know, Polkadot are creating parachains so that people can have their own independent chain and just rely on consensus algorithms from Polkadot. Is Cosmos somewhat similar? Because Cosmos is a network, decentralized network of independent parallel blockchains. Is it similar or completely different?
It is similar, but at the same time, it's bigger in scope. We have a more ambitious roadmap, right? Our vision is a future of 1 million blockchains, while in Polkadot, they're taking a more, I would say, a pragmatic approach, and they're starting with, let's say, 100 parachains. Another difference is that parachains, right, sort of rely on developers to be able to front up some funds to pay for one of these parachain slots. They're going to be hotly contested over because Polkadot is so valuable, and you're going to reach so many users by having a parachain slot. So that becomes a little bit competitive. It becomes quite expensive, and generally, the more well-funded, parachain projects will get the guaranteed slots, while the ones that are more experimental might not be able to. But in the Cosmos land, right, there are no such thing as parachain slots. So how Cosmos works is every chain launches independently of every other, and they are also not required to connect to any other chain either. So in fact, every new chain created in Cosmos is its own separate startup. It's its own separate website, if you can use that metaphor.
And does Cosmos, is it really open for any type of project? You know how VeChain, for example, they've chosen a specific niche, which is the supply chains, right? They want to be the ultimate protocol layer for supply chains. Does Cosmos is it enterprise only, or does it have a specific niche, or is it just completely open to anyone who wants to build their own blockchain?
It is completely open. So anything that can be expressed, with a decentralized database, it can be done with the Cosmos SDK. We have people building all sorts of things like decentralized cloud providers. We have people building tools for Ethereum developers, right? There's a project to add the EVM on top of Cosmos. There are people building social media platforms using Cosmos tech. Essentially anything you can imagine that can be put into a database, it can be built on Cosmos. And we're not opinionated on this.
Very nice. I love the neutral, hipster, easygoing approach that you guys have. And what about the levels of decentralization? That's another huge debate on choosing chains, right? And the consensus algorithms. How much does that matter to you personally when judging different chains, the level of decentralization and consensus algorithms?
Yeah, so decentralization is incredibly important. In the Cosmos world, we use something like delegated proof of stake, right? Where there are 100 validators that validate a particular chain. And it is more centralized than something like ETH or BTC, where there's hundreds of thousands of miners around the world, all vying for the next block. So there is more centralization risk for a specific Cosmos blockchain. But of course, like I mentioned before, this is only one chain, right? When you have hundreds of chains, thousands of chains, millions of chains, you can say that decentralization is actually stronger in Cosmos than a lot of other chains, just because each chain is siloed in terms of security from every other chain, if that makes sense.
I see.
That means if one chain or even 100 chains are taken down, the other thousands of chains will still live.
Yeah, because when you have your independent chain, it depends on the actual company if they want it to be more centralized or decentralized. It's not up to Cosmos to actually dictate that, right?
Every community has its own set of validators. They can use 20 validators if they want to be centralized. If they, let's say they're a centralized exchange, right? There's really not much need to use a whole bunch of validators. 20 maybe is enough. That's what Binance Chain, which is built on Cosmos Tech, uses. On the other end of the spectrum, you have chains using 200, 300 validators. That also works as well.
I was about to actually follow up with the Binance Smart Chain. So for you, like, a lot of criticism comes from the fact that Binance Smart Chain has compromised decentralization to get more speed and lower costs. Is that fine with you? Is it still a good use case? What are your thoughts on Binance Smart Chain?
So I haven't really looked into Binance Smart Chain, but I understand it's sort of like a fork of Ethereum that has, a smaller number of block producers, right? I think that's exactly what, something like Cosmos is meant for, right? It allows the creation of lots of different experiments, some more centralized, some more decentralized, and it's really based on the community itself to decide if they want to participate in it or not, right? So core to the ethos of Cosmos is the ability to exit, which goes to, I guess, one of the really coolest parts of Cosmos.
Amazing. Very, very cool, Peng. And you just mentioned, I think, a really important point, which is the ecosystem and companies or projects that are actually using the chain, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier with scalability, but talking specifically about the ecosystem and the Cosmos network, it looks like you guys have a lot of people building on Cosmos, which is a very positive sign. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what is the adoption currently out at Cosmos?
First of all, there are a lot of projects, but there are also some very valuable projects. If you look at sites like CoinCap or CoinGecko, 4 out of the top 25 most valuable chains in the world are built on Cosmos. So these include Binance Coin, Terra, Crypto.com Coin, and the Cosmos Hub itself.
Amazing.
So, but beyond that, there's roughly 31 mainnets live right now, and they have a combined, total market cap of over 85 billion.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. Actually, by the way, guys, don't forget to follow Peng on Twitter. So at ZC Peng, Peng. So $90 billion in digital assets are being secured on Cosmos as of today.
Yeah, those are only the chains that are live, right? There's over 200 projects being developed currently, and more coming down the line. I think people are realizing, how much value is provided for free right now with the Cosmos SDK. And if you want to build your own layer one, this is the way to do it. Save yourself years and years of R&D, build on something that costs you nothing, but gives you all of these benefits that chains like BNB are using.
So far in terms of criteria, just to sum it up, by the way, guys, if you think there are other points that are really important when evaluating blockchains, feel free to put them in the comments section below so that we can hear from you and share more perspectives. So far we talked about levels of decentralization, we talked about consensus algorithm, we talked about scalability, throughput, transaction fees, and if I'm not wrong, adoption and ecosystems, right? But I'd love to follow up on the specific scalability criteria. Like, how will Cosmos focus on scalability in the future? That's one thing that scares a lot of people. And you said is extremely valuable, right, for a blockchain, because you have so much adoption. And like you said, many test nets that soon will become main nets. How do you guys ensure that you'll be scalable and sustainable in the future?
Yeah, so at a high level, right, Cosmos allows scalability by encouraging people to build new chains whenever they have a new application idea, right? So unlike Ethereum, where they're supposed to spin up a smart contract for a new application idea and then stick it on Ethereum mainnet, in Cosmos, we really encourage you to build your own blockchain and put your application idea on that blockchain. There's many ways to write your blockchain. We have a current smart contract solution based on WebAssembly. Right, so WebAssembly allows you to compile from lots of different languages into WebAssembly bytecode, which is most popularly used in the browser. Right, so there are some applications that are just require so much performance. If you're a designer, you may have heard of Figma. That's built using WASM, WebAssembly, and that allows for incredibly high performance applications directly in your browser. Well, what we have in Cosmos is this project called Cosm WASM, which wraps this WebAssembly interpreter into a blockchain, allowing you to write smart contracts, in Rust, in Go, in JavaScript, I think in TypeScript, right? That's one way of doing it. You can also build a chain using Golang directly, which is the primary language of the Cosmos SDK. So yeah, so one application for one chain is generally how we see it. But obviously, if an application becomes very popular, right? Let's say someone does manage to make a successful social media clone on a blockchain, right? Generally, social media applications are, not really the best use case for a blockchain because of how much it costs transaction-wise, right? And if you're doing like a tweet, or if you're just leaving an emoji on someone's message, you don't want to be paying 10 cents for that, right? But let's say you decide to build something that has a huge amount of transaction volume. Eventually, you're even going to, outgrow one blockchain. So this is where we introduce the idea of sharding, which allows you to, run multiple blockchains using the same application code and sync them together every so often. Yeah, I dived a little more technical than I wanted to, but to take it back up a bit, obviously scalability is something we care a lot about, and it's one of our core values. But to get people to use this stuff is really difficult, right? And where are people right now, right, in crypto? Most of them are on ETH, doing stuff with NFTs or DeFi, right? So we have a few strategies as well to help Ethereum users with transaction costs.
There's one topic, obviously, since you love video games and a bit of a geek as well in that sense, like NFTs is one of the massive topics. And a lot of people are wondering if we're going through a bubble. A lot of people are wondering, which blockchain will have the biggest NFT platform. Myself, personally, I would never buy NFTs on small platforms. I'm not sure if they'll be able to pay the bills. And if their servers get cut out, I lose my NFT. But yeah, would love to hear your view. I'm sure you have a really, really interesting view on NFTs and how important would that be for the Cosmos network? But also, is this something that is as big as it is? Is it a bit of a bubble? Anything you want to throw at us, please go for it, Peng.
Yeah, so NFTs is definitely a bubble, but at the same time, it's going to see incredible growth over, let's say, the next decade. I think everything in the real world can be represented as an NFT, but more than that, right? As companies, larger companies are exploring augmented reality and virtual reality, right? These sort of environments are very conducive to NFTs, and to allow people to showcase what they have, what they have bought, what they own, etc., via a variety of augmented reality mediums. Let's say just wearing glasses and seeing someone walk around with a 1 of 100 NFT earrings, that only appear in AR, right? Is going to be really exciting. And it really brings, everything we've been doing inside of games, right, to the real world.
And so what would the criteria be for you to trust the platform enough to actually purchase an NFT for the long term?
The platform itself needs to have existed for a long time, and also it needs to have a lot of value secured behind it before I consider purchasing an NFT, right? You don't want to be buying an NFT in a sort of fly-by-night blockchain that will disappear the next week when people lose interest in it. So Ethereum is one of the best places to generate NFTs, but is it the best place to keep your NFTs, right? Maybe not, depending on how valuable the NFT is, right? Obviously, if you have a $10,000 piece of art, paying hundreds of dollars of transaction fees is arguably okay. But let's say you're a new artist and you want to create some $50 NFTs, right? Ethereum's way outside of your budget to even start participating in. Like if you list your item, it costs $50, and you might not ever see any return on that if people don't buy your piece of work. So there's a couple things we're doing in Cosmos. We're exploring many NFT solutions in Cosmos, but I should probably back up a bit. Before we talk about like even NFTs or even tokens on Cosmos, I need to talk about one of the most important things that the Cosmos brings to the table. Like I mentioned before from the very beginning, we're here to bridge all blockchains, right? And I mentioned before about how there's hundreds of blockchains in Cosmos. So how does it work, right? Are people just using the Cosmos SDK, building sovereign chains, and that it? That's not really all that we're here for. So we've been working really hard on this protocol called the Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol. This is IBC. And it's a way for people to exchange tokens and NFTs across blockchains. And as of today, there's 2 blockchains that have enabled it. Well, they enabled it last week. This is the Cosmos Hub blockchain, the Atom chain, and IrisNet, the Iris chain. And so these are the very first 2 blockchains in Cosmos who have enabled interchain token transfers. So this is the transfer of tokens and NFTs from one Cosmos chain to another Cosmos chain, and even to chains that are not built on Cosmos altogether. We've been talking about all the the 30 chains that have 90 billion worth of value, the 200 projects that are building on Cosmos, and that's not the only thing that makes Cosmos unique, right? Obviously, anyone can use Bitcoin today, right? And fork Bitcoin and build their own thing. That's what happened, I think, years ago, like 2014, 2015. A lot of that was happening. And you can do that with Cosmos. But the reason why we built this SDK in the first place is this idea of inter-blockchain communication, or IBC for short. So IBC is a protocol that allows for the transfer of data across blockchains. So today we have just two blockchains, two main nets that have enabled this. One is the Cosmos Hub, the Atom token, which we helped to create, and then one is the Iris Net, Iris token. And so as of last weekend, we've seen the very first cross-chain token transfers happen. It's a really exciting time, and there are a large number of mainnet projects that I mentioned before that are also working to enable IBC over the coming weeks.
I think, that interchain token economy is going to be critical, especially like you said with NFTs. So would it be fair to say, like Peng, that in terms of NFTs, you wouldn't personally invest in something that requires like long store of wealth, like a painting or something, and for the time being, just because the ecosystem is being built, you would more use it for like video games and things that are more easily interchangeable?
Yeah, I would definitely be conservative in what NFTs I buy right now. To be honest, I haven't bought a single NFT. I've been having a lot of fun watching people buy them, but I've been so focused with the rest of the team, building Cosmos stuff that it's something that I just watch from the sidelines.
And just to follow up on something you mentioned a little bit earlier, you're talking about Atom. One thing that's cool about the DOT token, and Polkadot is you need to own DOT in order to be eligible for the auctions, right? So it's a battle of the auctions, which has a great tokenomics, for the actual DOT token. Is it a little bit similar with Atom, where people who want to use the Cosmos SDK and build their own chain, they will acquire Atom tokens eventually, and the more adoption you have, the more people will actually own the Atom tokens. Is it similar, or how does it work exactly in terms of tokenomics?
Yeah, so explaining it in terms of difference to Ethereum and Polkadot is probably the right way to go. So with both Ethereum and Polkadot, how it works is you need to own the base token. It's ETH, it's DOT, right, to start building stuff on the mainnet. In Cosmos, you don't have to own the Atom to build anything on Cosmos, right? And that's why you see some centralized exchanges like Binance and OKCoin, et cetera, Crypto.com, use the Cosmos SDK for their own purposes to build sort of like a more centralized chain for themselves. And where the Atom gains value is through IBC. So through the power of cross-chain token transfers, interchain transfers, we are building a marketplace, and we're building the best marketplace, the biggest marketplace in Cosmos. And it's a place where you want to be. Like if you take the analogy that Ethereum is a very sort of very dense downtown, like Manhattan, right? And then Cosmos is the suburbs. Cosmos is the farmlands beyond the suburbs. And so what the Cosmos Hub and what the Atom represents is it represents the sort of the biggest city center within this suburban farmland area. And what happens, let's say every weekend, to take this analogy a bit further, is people from the farms bring all their produce on the back of their trucks to this great farmers market that has everything you can imagine. Due to the incredible amounts of liquidity, the different amounts of assets, ranging from NFTs to normal tokens to new chain launches, et cetera, all of that activity happens on the Cosmos Hub. So it's not required for you to bring any of your goods there. But if you want to be somebody in Cosmos, right, if you want to participate in the greater Cosmos economy and really avail yourself to all the sorts of different types of things in Cosmos, you likely want to transfer your tokens to the Cosmos Hub and do your trade there.
Amazing. I love the analogy, by the way. My grandma Susie will be very happy to have these simplified analogies to better understand Ethereum as a city and Cosmos as the suburbs and the land and the farms. It's a really cool
so
analogy.
In Ethereum, right, everyone needs to pay rent or pay taxes to the city of New York or to your landlord. In Cosmos, you don't have to pay that. So when you create your own farm, when you create your own blockchain in Cosmos, right, you're claiming land that has never been claimed before. So you don't owe anyone anything, but at the same time, you need to provide your own security, right? You probably need to have your own weapons to defend against wild animals, to defend against sort of anything out there, because the police doesn't really go out that far. But in return, you get all the freedom in the world to build whatever you want, and whatever you end up building, you should bring to the marketplace in exchange for what you need. That's the Cosmos philosophy.
Well, thank you so much, Peng, for coming on the show. We're really excited about what is in the future for Tendermint and what you guys are doing behind the Cosmos Network. And guys, if you like this show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and blast that bell notification so you get access to more of these timeless interviews with these great crypto educators. We look forward to seeing you again next week, Wednesday, premiering at a PC near you, 8 o'clock GMT. See you next week, guys.